Cocaine, ecstasy, Adderall, Xanax, cigarettes, alcohol, methamphetamines, all substances you would expect to form addictions to. What about sugar? Do you ever think that you could form an addiction to sugar? The answer to that question is yes, you can form an addiction to sugar. Although it's not a substance addiction, it's a natural addiction. So let's talk a little bit about sugar. Sugar is vital to your body's metabolism. Your body takes sugar and it converts it into energy through glucose, which is how your body performs daily tasks. But just like most things, sugar is a good thing, but when you abuse it and when you consume too much of it, it becomes a bad thing. Natural sugars found in fruits are great, but artificial sugars are not. On average, Americans eat about 75 pounds of sugar per year. That is an incredible amount of sugar. It's ridiculous to even think about. But 100 years ago, it was only about 4 pounds of sugar per year. So what's changed in those 100 years? Well, companies are adding sugar to almost every product now that's on the market. There's added sugar in over 80% of the products that you consume, especially food products. But sugar is also found in products like cigarettes. They add it to the filters to make it more tasty so that you'll come back and buy more. So fructose, artificial sugars, which are found in things like cereals, they're found in drinks, sodas, granola bars, many things you would expect to be healthy, but companies take those healthy things and they add a bunch of sugar into them. Fructose causes insulin resistance and obesity, or an increase in fat also causes insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to type 2 diabetes, which is also on the rise in America, along with obesity. Type 2 diabetes has increased 600% since 1958. And this is due to the increase in intake of sugar. So they did a study on milkshakes, and they took 4 obese Americans, and they gave them a milkshake, the same milkshake, and then 4 weeks later they gave them a milkshake that had a lot more sugar in it, but tasted the exact same. And after the last milkshake that they consumed, up to 4 hours later, their brains produce cravings, which are similar to drug cravings. And as you'll see in this slide, it says sugar is almost as addictive as cocaine. Here's the effects of the brain. Here's a normal brain, here's a cocaine brain, and here's an obese brain after consuming sugar. And they're very similar. So, taste receptors, they get the signals in your tongue, and they send signals up to your cerebral cortex, which signals the reward system in your brain. Overactivating this reward system can lead to loss of control, cravings, and increased intolerance to sugar. Sugar also causes dopamine to be released, which is normal. But instead, most foods, they cause dopamine to be released, and then it'll go back down, and then the more that you eat the same food, the dopamine will not increase. But the longer that you eat sugar, dopamine continues to release, which is why it can become so harmful. So sugar is addictive, but like most addictions, it's hard to stop. It's like cigarettes. But why are addictions so hard to stop? It's because we need to get to the root of addictions and what addiction is. Addiction is the dependence on a substance to get a certain feeling. So stress, anxiety, depression are many causes and factors that lead people into addictions. People start consuming substances like alcohol, cigarettes, even sugar to deal and cope with daily stress and anxiety. And so the problem here is not that the substance, it's why we're using the substance. And so first we need to get to the bottom of that, but second we need to make a plan. And so a couple of ways of dealing with this problem is by finding something to replace the bad substance. So let's say the bad substance is sugar, which in this case it is. It's time to let it go. And so you need to fill that sugar with different things, like sports. Finding an activity that you can do that fulfills that and that will relieve your stress or anxiety, like listening to music, or playing basketball with your friends, or many other activities that could fill that. I know for me personally, I struggle with a lot of addictions, especially an addiction to sugar. And the best way that I've found to deal with it is by replacing it with something else in your life. it's by turning away from that thing. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not go and consume this. It looks so good. Brownie melts from McDonald's are a perfect example. But and another important aspect is community and finding people who can keep you accountable. Because if not, you can't do it on your own. It's just not. It's too hard. And so finding community that can take on this challenge with you is very important. Because many people struggle with the same thing that you do, whether you know it or not. It's true. So we figured out that addiction is a very difficult thing to deal with. And it's hard to stop because addictions are distractions. That's the way that you escape from reality. But one way that I've coped with my problems in life is through music. And music's a great way to cope with these things because it takes something that I used to fill with a bad substance, and it uses something good and something not harmful to fill it with. And so also like activities like basketball or playing sports with friends, just find any kind of sport. Because when you exercise, it releases endorphins in your brain, which is another form of a reward system, similar to dopamine. And so, but the biggest way that I've found out that I've dealt with my problems is actually through finding Jesus. And my life used to be awful, and I felt like that I had no meaning and no purpose, which actually caused a lot of stress and anxiety in my life. But Psalms 107:9 says, "The longing soul, for he satisfies the longing soul, and the hungry soul he fills with good things." And John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." And knowing this thing and starting a relationship with the God who created us is what saved me from these many addictions and problems in my life. So that's how I deal with them. So yes, you can be addicted to sugar, but there's many ways to deal with this addiction.